So, good morning, everybody. It's delightful to have you on this call because fasting is one of the most amazing things that I've ever come across. And so it's been decades since I've known about fasting, but I have re-engaged my fascination with it and dove really deep in order to be able to prepare this group call for you today. So I'm just going to share my screen because I've made some slides. There we go. Can everybody see the slides? Let me just move that out of the way. There you go. Can you make a sign, Tracy, if you can see those slides? Excellent. And Julia, you weren't able to before. Can you see them now? Excellent. And Emmy, all good. So if you all want to
I
pop
can, sorry.
you can, yeah. I knew you were there. Emily, if you just want to pop your microphone on mute, that would be good. And then there'll be no background noise. So, how to fast intelligently? So that's the question, right? How to do this intelligently? Because when we fast without much thought about it, like my son did the other day in town, we can feel super tired. We can even become dizzy, and we can feel anxious. All sorts of things can happen. However, when we do this intelligently, you are going to feel boundless. I promise you. So let's have a look at that next slide. Welcome. I'm actually myself 60 hours into a fast, and I have so much energy. I have mental clarity. My skin is so clear. I don't have any puffy eyes. My wrinkles seem to have disappeared. Amazing. So a water fast is what we're talking about today, not a dry fast. We're using water to be able to clean our system out and giving our digestion a break from all of that food, taking us out of the postprandial state, which is the state that most people spend most of their waking time in. The postprandial state is when we eat. It takes about 2 hours for the body to digest that food, or more actually, but really we're in the postprandial state for about 2 hours, even if it's just a couple of biscuits that you eat or a handful of nuts. So whenever we're in that postprandial state, we cannot lose weight. So fasting is sometimes the reason, fasting is sometimes a great way for people who want to lose weight. However, if you are tiny like me, you will not lose further weight because what we're doing here is balancing your metabolic system and balancing your hormones. How exciting. So everything gets better when you fast. Now, a water fast is a water fast. And I want to encourage you to not think about what foods you might be able to sneak into a water fast and not break your fast. Instead, if you would like to make fasting more interesting and combat the challenge of boredom, because you'll find you have heaps of spare time when you're fasting because you're not shopping, you're not thinking about what to buy or what to cook, you're not cooking and you're not cleaning. So by fasting, you can probably add about 4 hours to your day, and it'll increase your emotional resilience and your mental capacity as well. There's the idea, I think, out there that fasting is something that will wear us down. But the reality actually is that it optimizes every system in the body and make you feel like you are limitless. So if you do have a pen, here are some examples of some of the supplements and minerals that I use when I'm fasting to make sure that I have all of the nutrients required to be able to regenerate my cells and detoxify my body. So some people just add a little pinch of salt to their water, and I like to use electrolytes. Just make sure that there's no color or flavor in those electrolytes, and definitely no sugar. So Gatorade is off. Never buy Gatorade, please. So I also have trace minerals, which is the 95 tiny little minerals that no one ever thinks about, like boron and manganese and all of these tiny little minerals. And they come from the ocean. Interestingly, the concentration of minerals in the ocean is the same as in our blood. So that's a great way to give yourself more energy and fill up what I call the pantry in your body. You see, your bones, they store minerals. And if we have had lots of babies and breastfed them, we can become quite depleted of minerals. And so as we age and as we reach perimenopause and menopause, it's essential to get those trace minerals in so that we don't become tiny little old ladies whose bones are shrinking because we're having to pull the minerals out of them to provide us with what we need. So other things that I take when I'm fasting are B vitamins, activated B vitamins, as well as chlorella. And I like to bind the toxins in my digestive system with charcoal or bentonite clay. And sometimes I use medicinal mushroom tinctures. Am I going too fast for your busy pens? And because they're adaptogens and they help all of the systems balance. And what else do I like to use? Definitely zinc, magnesium, and also
can you please?
Tracy, was that a question, Tracy?
Yeah, sorry. I was scribbling down the list. You said activated B vitamins, charcoal, and bentonite clay. What was the next one?
Medicinal mushrooms.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you can use them as a powder and mix them into your water, or you can just use them as a tincture and pop them into water as well.
Right.
Julia, you have a question?
How are you taking your zinc and magnesium?
Oh,
How are you?
I use a liquid zinc, so I just use it as a little pipette and just goes into the water.
Where do you like to buy that from?
I buy that from me.
Yeah.
I can get
Okay.
you some, no problem at all. Now,
Thank you.
Bioceuticals does do a liquid zinc, but I prefer to use the zinc that we have because it has several different types of zinc in, which really optimizes absorption. And we use the types of zinc that don't make you feel a little upset in your stomach.
That's so good. And trace minerals, where do you like to buy them? Can I get them from you as well?
You can also get them from me. However, you can also get them from the health food shop, and you can often get them from the chemist as well. Sometimes they're called colloidal trace minerals, but it's not colloidal silver. It's colloidal everything.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll just start my screen share again. Beautiful. So fasting might seem like a challenge. You might kind of build up to doing a fast the first time and think, oh my God, this is going to be hard. How am I going to do it? I might fail. But many people say that fasting can actually become addictive. Now, I know that Julia will agree. She's done lots of fasting, and I think probably Tracy would agree too. So let's find out why. So what if what you ate mattered less than when or how often you ate? Honestly, what we eat matters too. It matters a lot. However, reducing the number of hours per day that we eat significantly supports the health of our cells. Here, we'll learn how to support our hormones and to make fasting safe and effective. Now, one moment as I just work out, here we go, how to move this along. Yeah, one moment. Okay, here we go. It could well be that fasting saves your life. Or it might take away your pain. So if you've had chronic pain and nothing's working, fasting might be a great solution for you. Or it might stop you from getting cancer. Or if you've already got a cancer diagnosis, it might make that cancer stop replicating. It also might help you to resolve an autoimmune condition. And women, 80% of the people who have autoimmune diseases are women. So how lovely that we can fast and find a different solution. And by the way, you already do fast. We all fast about 12 hours a day when we sleep. Breakfast literally means to break the fast. So there you go. You're already good at fasting. And people have been fasting since the beginning of time, haven't they? Let's imagine what it might have been like in primitive Gondwana or primitive early Earth when humans first began. They would have fasted until they were able to catch the food that they needed, and then they would all have feasted. And then there would have been another period of fasting and then another period of feasting. And it turns out that that is exactly what our body's like. So here's a little message for you. I know how difficult it is to read and listen. So sit back and relax, pen in hand, because I'll be sure to read each slide. And this call is being recorded, so you can watch it later. Now, I'm going to just bring up the next slide here, and I'm going to read it for you, and then I'll unshare so that you can see my face again. So fasting can help with the following. Well, first of all, it stimulates growth hormone, which is something that really takes a dive when we get to menopause. And it's also a fat burning hormone, and it increases that so significantly. You can see 1,300%. So that is amazing. It also triggers autophagy or autophagy, depending on where you live and what accent you have, which we will discuss heaps on this call. And it also helps us to generate stem cells from which we can grow any sort of cell that we like. And people spend thousands of dollars injecting stem cells into their joints, but fasting can help us to actually make those stem cells at an accelerated rate. So it'll also help you to stabilize your blood sugar so that you don't feel like a crazy lady, ups and downs during your day, and it will support your immune system. It also is great for depression and anxiety, and it's just the best way to detoxify. It costs nothing, maybe just whatever you need for some salt and some water. And it definitely helps people with weight loss and improves their metabolic function. So that's their energy production mechanism. So it slows the aging process, which is probably useful for all of us, given that we're bombarded with toxins and stress and things that make us look and feel older. And it helps us with autoimmune conditions, like I mentioned. So it will normalize your insulin secretions, which is the hormone, again, we'll discuss this later, but the hormone that helps us to get sugar from the blood and store it in our fat cells. So this is good to normalize the levels of insulin production and leptin sensitivity. So that's for a whole different discussion, leptin. Fasting can also lower your blood pressure, and it can support thyroid conditions. I've seen this happen. It can reduce chronic pain almost instantly, and it's great if you have candida or gut issues, dysbiotic issues in the gut, too many bad bacteria growing, etc. Now, it's great for people with gallbladder issues, really, really super great. And it supports our hormone production and our fertility, and it can help us to have like a really easy, graceful period as we move into perimenopause and menopause. So ghrelin and leptin, we'll talk about them another day because that's such a big subject. But I'm just going to unshare the screen and just check in on you and make sure that everything is okay. Does that surprise you?
It didn't surprise me, but I just am really amazed at how wonderful it is that all of those things can happen from something that costs nothing. And while it might be challenging before you've done it, you might think, oh, it's so hard. When you actually do it, it's fantastic and you feel so good. By the stage you're at, Alice, the third day, it's so good.
Look at me.
So yeah, I just love, yes, you look glowing, and I love that that's so available to us. It's something everyone can do. So it's pretty amazing.
Excellent. So I'm heading for 72 hours, but I'll finish my fast at 9:00 p.m., which means I may as well already be asleep and get a whole nother 12 hours in. So that's how easy it is. Did anyone else just want to make a comment? Are you surprised that fasting actually can do all of these things?
Yes and no.
Why yes and
Yes,
why
no. Well, I've shared before that the longest water fast that I've done was 6 days, and
amazing.
it was when I was getting over having typhoid and another kind of breakdown, and I felt just so much better when I got through it. So I know that it did wonderful things.
Mm.
You know, such wonderful things. So on one level, I'm just not surprised how well it upgraded my whole system.
I've learned heaps more about fasting just in preparation for this group call. And I'm astounded. I'm just astounded. And the biggest thing really is that we need to fast differently from men. So today we're going to be learning all about how to do that so that we can really get the most out of our fasts and also nourish our hormones so that we can easily produce the hormones that we need to stay vital and feel happy. So I'll just pop onto the screen again and let's see what that next slide is. Here we go. So fasting, oh, there we go. Fasting also is not on that list. I don't know why, but fasting definitely reduces chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation pretty much drives every disease process that exists. So without doubt, given that we live in the culture that we do, in the planet that we do, and have the stresses that we have, we're all going to benefit from reducing inflammation. It says here, regardless of your health condition, this is the very best thing. So I personally, in my practice, have seen people resolve rashes and all manner of skin conditions, including psoriasis and dermatitis. I had one lady whose hands were just red raw. She had to wear gloves, but even wearing the gloves hurt. And now I just saw her the other day. She has the most healthy, beautiful skin. So we definitely did some fasting with her, and now she's a pro at fasting and she loves it. I've also seen it resolve insulin resistance, which is something that I make sure whether the people in my course are insulin resistant or not. Hopefully you've filled out that questionnaire and discovered for yourself. Also obesity, of course, I've seen people lose weight through fasting, but also I've seen people's anxiety and depression resolve, diminish or decrease, or just disappear completely. I certainly don't feel anxious or depressed, even though I haven't eaten for 60 hours. I feel amazing. So I've also seen it help hormonal problems. I helped a young girl recently to regain her period. It took 3 weeks to get her period back, and she hadn't had it for 6 months. So also premature menopause, you might find that if you start a fasting lifestyle and you are already, but only recently become menopausal, you might actually bleed again. So I've also had a woman who was losing her hair. We did some fasting and she's not losing her hair anymore. I've seen multiple women with thyroid problems because that's one of the big drivers of fatigue. Even autoimmune thyroid problems, which your average doctor is going to tell you you cannot get rid of. So that's exciting, isn't it? So also gut dysbiosis. When we fast and we use a ketobiotic diet, which is low carbs, but eating foods that have probiotics and prebiotics in them, then our balance of good bugs and bad bugs changes. And the most exciting thing, actually, it's not on this screen, but our cravings resolve. So if you are addicted to something, to chocolate or something like that, then maybe fasting would be good to be able to see if you could change those habits, those patterns effortlessly. So brain fog is a big issue, and so is memory problems for many women, especially as we enter into this period of our lives as we move towards 50. And fasting is great for that as well. And it can work for you. So let's have a look at that next screen. I was just wondering if there's anyone else who hasn't shared already who has some experience with fasting. Maybe Tracy, have you done any fasting?
Yes, I have. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can't hear you so well. You might have to get a bit closer to the microphone.
I've got earpods in. I don't know if they're working.
That's
Can you
perfect.
hear me? Okay. So I have done fasting intermittently. I do it daily anyway, but I've been fasting. I started probably 10 years ago, and I've done a 28-day cleanse, which was juicing, etc., and removing all fat, all sugars, etc. So feeling my body, and I lost 7 kilos in that one.
7
And
kilos
I
over how
actually,
long?
it was 28 days. I actually stopped it on day 26 because I started to get cracks in the corners of my mouth and around my nose, and I noticed that my body felt like it was deteriorating. So I think that maybe I was following the medical medium liver cleanse, and I think that I was not informed enough about what I needed to maintain. So maybe I wasn't getting enough water, or I don't know what was going on there. And I've done some other fasting where I fasted for 3 days. And after the first day, I started to get a bit cranky. And I noticed that my moods, because you're cleaning out your liver, I noticed a bit of anger came out. And also, you go through stuff, so your organs are cleaning out. So emotions, which I'm very aware of because of traditional Chinese medicine that I study, very aware of those emotions being released out of my body. And after day 3, I really got an energetic high, and I felt like I could go for a really long time. But then I thought, well, I probably should try to eat again, and then not wanting to put anything into this pure vessel because it was so clean, and I was really worried about what I was eating. I didn't want to stop myself from feeling so good, so I was really worried about what I was going to eat. And I have last year I gave up alcohol altogether, so I haven't drunk alcohol for over a year. And not that I drank it much, it was just socially, but I just was only doing it to be social, and I didn't want to do it. And I've also given up coffee and sugar, and I've noticed that giving up the sugar has stopped craving. So
yeah, that really does
my
happen.
my
It's
craving,
amazing.
yeah. And also what I'm noticing is everywhere I go, I'm looking for something without sugar, and sometimes I have to walk out of the restaurant or the place because there's nothing with nowhere that you can get no sugar. Like, it's difficult.
Well, thanks for sharing all of that.
But
I want to just suggest that when we get cracks in the corner of the mouth, it's a zinc issue. So perhaps you weren't taking enough zinc during that time. Amazing.
Right.
It's really
I don't
important
think
we
I was
eat.
taking supplements.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
I don't think I was taking any supplements while I was doing that fast.
Great. Okay.
So,
and it's also
my
really
point
important.
is to be informed about what you should be doing when you go into a fast. I think is important.
Yeah, and also doing the liver cleanse. I know a lot of people were doing the medical medium cleanse. We're women and we're different from men, and you're going to learn today why that's important. And you're right, what you eat coming out of the fast is very, very important too. So we can talk about that later. So I'll just pop back onto these screens. Getting quite good at this. Okay, so a quick refresh about insulin and how this is supposed to work. So insulin is the hormone produced by the pancreas, which is on your left-hand side under your tummy. And when we eat sugar and carbohydrates, it gets released into the system. And it's released to take the sugar from your bloodstream and store it in your fat cells or use it. So that's how it is supposed to work. Now, what happens when things go wrong? When your fat cells are already, come back. When your fat cells are already full, if you've already been feasting and eating lots of carbs and sugar, those fat cells are no longer able to accept the glucose. And so the glucose levels stay seriously or dangerously high in the blood, which creates brain cell death, inflammation, and it drives the body into a state of crisis. It's called insulin resistance, when those cells won't let any more glucose in. And it drives all sorts of diseases and even can develop into diabetes, which is a massive problem in the world at the moment. However, fasting done intelligently cleans up this damage and makes the fat cells able to accept glucose again. So I've got 4 key ideas here. The first is that women are different from men, and to fast effectively, we need to consider our monthly hormonal ups and downs. And this maximizes the benefits of fasting and helps us to avoid the pitfalls. And so we're going to learn lots about that today. And the standard Western diet actually makes us burn glucose for fuel. But switching over to burning fat through fasting means that we can reset our metabolic system. That's our energy system, and improve our health outcomes dramatically. Point number 3 is that fasting creates healthy stress for the body. We call this eustress. It's like cold exposure and exercise. It's referred to as a hermetic stress. It's a good stress. And small doses of stress like this actually make us grow stronger and more fit as a result. So the last point here is that varying the length of our fasts keeps the body guessing, and that helps us to avoid plateaus. You know, if you have the same diet for a long time, you eat food at the same time, the same sorts of foods, often people's weight loss will plateau. Even if they've made big changes, now they're just staying the same, then they can stay at the same weight as well. So we're trying to mix it up and give the body some variety and keep it guessing. That way we're providing a perfect hermetic stress. So today we're going to learn when to fast and how to eat well when we do feast. And I'm going to offer some suggestions to get you started. Now, we know that we're all different. I'd like to give credit here to some doctors that I've been studying with and learning from for years. One is Dr. Mark Hyman. The second one is Dr. Chris Kresser. And the third is Dr. Mindy Peltz, P-E-L-T-Z. Write that down, Dr. Mindy Peltz. She is a legend, and I'm so grateful to be sharing some of the information that I've learned from her here as well. So these 3 brave medical doctors have challenged the conventional medical paradigm and are teaching millions of people all about the benefits of fasting. Dr. Mindy teaches that women are different from men, and so we need to fast differently, and that makes sense. I really love her audiobook. It's called Fast Like a Girl. If you could write that down, please. Dr. Mindy Peltz, Fast Like a Girl. I recommend it to all of you. It is a great place to start. And she also has another book titled The Menopause Reset. So once you've read Fast Like a Girl, I recommend that if you're menopausal, you should definitely get that on audiobooks. I think it costs $13, and it will totally change the way that you look at your life and your health. So our goal with fasting, our goal with fasting is simply at the moment to discover a pattern of fasting that works for you. We want to begin with intermittent fasting and then learn how to cycle different length fasts into our lifestyle so we can avoid those plateaus. And you'll find that the fasting lifestyle is great because, you know, when you've got guests coming, you can not fast. And then when you've got some time or you have something coming up, maybe a stressful event, you can fast towards that, being mindful of the time in your cycle. So another term for fasting is water fasting. And as you can imagine, with all fasts, water is essential. So drink water to your heart's content, I have a little bottle here that hydrogenates my water. And it's good to have some of that because it acts like superpower for the antioxidant system, and it provides more hydrogen into the water to make the oxygen more absorbable. So water, 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 water. If you fast without water, I don't think that your body really will have all the resources that it needs to adequately clean itself out. However, I do know a woman who is an online teacher, and she teaches about dry fasting. This is something that I haven't dived into because honestly, it doesn't make any sense to me. However, I will do that research and I will get back to you about what I discover. So just show me in the chat who feels like they would be willing or able to try to do some intermittent fasting. I'm going to just say here that intermittent fasting is simply decreasing the window that we eat in. So you can eat your breakfast an hour later, and then 2 days later, eat the breakfast another hour later, or you could eat and finish your dinner earlier in the evening. So instead of finishing at 8 p.m., try and finish by 6. And we keep increasing the fasting window from the regular 12 hours where we normally asleep anyway. And we try and aim towards 15 hours or more. And this is where we start. So who reckons that would be pretty easy to do that if it meant that you might be able to have some of those health benefits? Excellent. That's good. So here are some other types of fasting, and this is a concept that I really want you to understand. It's called autophagy or autophagy if you're American. So autophagy in Latin simply means self-eating, and when cells are damaged, they get gobbled up by the immune system, and their component parts, they get recycled so that you can make new cells. Now, when we're feasting all the time, the body gets a bit lazy about recycling old and damaged cells. However, when we remove the calories from the diet and we move into ketosis, or as we move past those 15 hours, then the body gets very clever at cleaning up old and damaged proteins that have been discarded. And that is a wonderful way to detox your body. So autophagy improves cellular resilience. That's supposed to say resilience, not resistance. It improves our ability to detox, to repair, and removes waste, like I mentioned, but it also starts to burn stored fat, particularly fat stored around your organs, which can often make you feel like you've got a big bloated belly. So Dr. Osumi, I can't say his first name, I'm not going to. Dr. Osumi won the Nobel Prize in 2016 for revealing that in the absence of food, our cellular health improves, and improves dramatically. He showed that it repairs your mitochondria, which are the engines in your cells that help you to make energy and redox molecules. So the reparative effect of fasting on the mitochondria, we call that mitophagy. So we love fasting for 16 to 18 hours to make the most of this powerful cleanup process called autophagy. So if you feel able, once you've practiced intermittent fasting for a while, you can start to stretch your fast out to maximize or to take advantage of the benefits of autophagy. So there's one type of fast which sounds kind of easy to do, and it might be the first one that you'd like to do after you've really felt out that you can manage more than 15 hours. It's called dinner to dinner. And so it's 24 hours. And this is sometimes called OMAD. Has anyone heard of OMAD? Just raise your hand in the chat. It means 1 meal a day, OMAD. And you could aim to do this 1 day a week for a month and see how you go. And when we do this, we experience autophagy, and we also start to burn ketones. So you could also call this the gut repair fast, as it actually repairs the mucosal lining of the gut. How good is that? It supports the bacteria in the gut as well. And so probiotics and fermented foods are like the flowers that we want to grow in the garden of our gut. Our waste, our feces, our stool is soil. And just like the soil in your garden can either be healthy or not healthy, we want the soil in our bodies to be super healthy as well. So another thing actually that I take when I'm fasting is probiotics. This morning I got my sauerkraut and I tipped the water from the sauerkraut into a glass and drank that. I'm also taking the probiotics made by ASEA called Biome, which are my favorite ever. I don't so much trust the pharmaceutical companies, and they own most of the supplement companies in Australia, all the big ones. So I would prefer to use the ASEA Biome over something that's owned by Big Pharma. So food for thought. Now, ketones are a chemical the liver produces when there's a storage of glucose. And when we burn ketones, it has a powerful anti-inflammatory effect. Ketones are also reparative, especially for the brain. So they can repair the brain cells. They can also repair nerve cells as well. So if someone has an injury, really great for them to fast because it helps those nerve cells repair. Ketones also improve your memory and your ability to retain information. They also give increased focus and mental clarity. And ketones are the preferred fuel for the mitochondria, those little factories I mentioned in your cells that make energy and the redox signaling molecules, which allow for perfect communication between our cells. Now, those redox cells also seek and repair damaged cells, so super important to be able to boost those however you like. I've got a really great way to do that if you're interested. And ketones also make us release GABA when we burn them. And GABA is our primary calming neurochemical. So 98% of our neurotransmitters are excitatory. They are exciting something to happen. They make shit happen. Whereas GABA calms and slows down everything. So we love GABA. And ketones also, they suppress your appetite. How perfect is that? And that's why you will feel limitless when you start fasting. Now, it's true. I remember Tracy saying that first 12 hours was a challenge. That is the biggest challenge when you fast. Those first 12 hours are the time when the body's going, hold on, what's happening? And all of the microbiome is going to be telling you to eat some sugar, to grab a muffin, to break the fast. But if you get through those first 12 hours, then no problem at all. That's the first 12 waking hours, right? So hopefully we've already fasted 12 hours and then we're doing another 12 hours. But that can be a bit of a challenge. So just know that if you can get through that, you're going to be feeling amazing. I can testify for that for sure. So those ketones, like I said, they suppress your appetite. So another type of fasting is a 36-hour fast. And this is a fast that's reputed to be able to kill cancer cells. And it's really good because it helps us to really use up all those old proteins in the body even more. And we start to really burn old stored fat that we haven't been able to burn before. So later on, you could even experience a 48-hour fast. That's 2 days, or a 72-hour fast, which is 3 days. It's my favorite. And you could even go on to do a 5-day fast or longer. We're going to have a chat in a minute with Julia and have a chat about her mum, Denise, and the fast that she's just done and why she's done it. But a 72-hour fast specifically is definitely, absolutely been shown to stop the growth of cancer cells. So, hey, Julia, are you still there? Would you just be able to tell us a little bit about your mum? I can't hear.
Hello.
There you are. Great.
Can you hear me now? Hi.
Yes.
And Maggie's here with us too. She's just
Maggie.
listening because it's such good information.
That's
So.
great.
Yeah, I'd love to tell you. So, my mum has had a pretty extreme challenge recently, and her hip was hurting her so much that even though she doesn't like taking pharmacy, like she doesn't like taking anything that's not natural, she was taking some painkillers, and it was looking, she got a diagnosis of something that's pretty horrible, and it was looking pretty bad. And I just suggested, Mum, what about a long fast? And because, and she's so amazing. She just has an ability to go yes and commit to something, that afternoon she started. And at about day 3, she had no pain, and she had had pain in that hip for many months. I'm not sure how long exactly, but months. And it was, but she started. Yep.
I saw her and took care of her a couple of times when she was in that much pain, and she could hardly get from the car to my room.
Yeah.
She was just in so
Walking
much
was,
pain. She was crying at one point, like a lot of pain.
yeah, so hard, and so hard to watch. Oh my gosh, when she's been so energetic and well for so long. And then to go to that point, and then she did a 7-day fast. So the first, after 3 days, she had no pain.
Let's go back. She just received a
Okay.
diagnosis of cancer, right?
She did, yeah. And that was devastating. And for her, she just decided to handle it away, and which was to fast and to do. She also started Essiac tea at the same time. She already does all these health giving things like ASEA and things like that. She hadn't been taking big doses, but she was anyway. And after, she didn't find it hard. Even I think the second day, she was a little hungry, but she was okay. She was fine. The third day, she felt great and without pain for the first time in months, and much more mobile, like amazingly more mobile. And by the 7 days, she was just feeling wonderful. We both had been reading up on fasting cycling, and what that would be like for cancer, and felt like she needed to nourish her body out of this and then go back into it. So she's come out of the 7-day fast, and she has had a little bit more pain. And she will go back into a fast. Like, she just did a 24-hour fast yesterday. I'm not sure. I think, Alice, you might have had a chat with her then, but I'm not sure how that went. But she, after a few days, didn't feel hungry at all and felt fantastic, and almost like that's why it's addictive, because you can feel like just so wonderful fasting. And I don't feel like she had any we didn't have some things, like she was certainly taking electrolytes and a pinch of salt and things like that, but I think some of these other things that Alice has mentioned in the beginning will be really helpful for her next fasts as well. And but yeah, it's just been wonderful for her.
Great, thank you so much for sharing. I'll just bring you back to the screen, the slides again. I love Denise. She's one of my favorite people on the planet. She's extraordinary, and she's what, 73?
Yeah.
Amazing. So anyone of any age can fast. So let's just move on and see what comes next. So when to fast? That is the question. So menstruating women do best when they do longer fasts in the first 10 days of their cycle. That's pretty easy to remember, isn't it? So from day 1, which is when we start bleeding, for the first 10 days. And we want to pull up just as we start to ovulate. This is a point at which estrogen increases, estrogen production, also testosterone production as well. So although intermittent fasting is fine at any time during your cycle, we want to focus on nourishing our bodies at ovulation, which ought to be around day 13. And we really want to nourish our bodies so that, in a particular way, so that we can build progesterone as well. So this means from day 20 to 28, we want to feast. So there's way more to this, and I'm going to explain more and give you some links so that you can go and learn all about this yourself, because we're all at different stages, aren't we? Some of us are still bleeding, some of us are perimenopausal and have no idea if or when we're ovulating, and some of us have completely finished bleeding. So a concept we want to understand is that nourishing our bodies is as important as fasting. It actually helps us to fast, and it helps us to avoid the weakness that can happen when we don't do it well. Sometimes people get headaches. In fact, even if you're fasting well, you might get some headaches. And it helps us to not be so hungry. If we nourish our bodies first, then we're not so hungry when we fast. So how to nourish our hormones? When we're making them in large amounts, like that time where we're making a lot of estrogen and testosterone during ovulation. Now, I just want to let you know, I can send you these next two slides, so you don't have to get busy writing now. The first hormone that we want to talk about is estrogen. Some people call it estrogen. You can spell it with an O-E or just an E. This concept here, I want you to put into your brains. So just open up your listening ears right now, get a pen and write this down. Increases in glucose and insulin from burning carbs and sugar equals decreased estrogen. I'll say that again. Increased glucose and insulin from eating carbs and sugar decreases estrogen. And estrogen helps us to look beautiful and young and feel healthy as well. So estrogen actually thrives and comes into balance when we eat foods containing cholesterol. So even though the naughty food industry began this whole fat-free fad nearly 40 years ago, we now know that eating fat-free is a disaster for your hormones. So if you weigh more than you would like, definitely do not limit your fats. Just limit those carbs and sugars and those sweet foods and snacks and treats. So phytoestrogens actually come from plants like seeds and nuts and legumes and fruit and vegetables. These are plant-based estrogens. So they help us when we get to menopause. So plenty of fruit and vegetables, nuts and seeds and legumes. Now, we call these phytoestrogens protective estrogens, and we feast on these foods during ovulation as well as the cholesterol-filled foods. So you can find plenty of goodness in olive oil. Please make sure it is organic. Please, 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 please. It'll only cost you an extra couple of dollars, but it'll make great healthy cell membranes. And that's the brain of the cell, remember? The cell membrane is what determines what comes into the cell, what nutrient can get in, and how much waste can get out. So we want to have really super healthy cell membranes. So olive oil is a great way to get that, and so is coconut oil and MCT oil and flax oil and avocado oil. And I recommend eating organic grass-fed meats if you do eat meat. And if you don't, contact me, we'll find another way. So organ meats are great too. Another thing I sometimes use when I'm fasting is capsules of organic grass-fed beef liver. So that really stimulates the mitochondria to do their work and contains no calories, virtually no calories. It won't break your fast. So you could also eat pine nuts, put them on your next shopping list. Brazil nuts are great. Brazil nuts full of selenium and support your methylation, which is a process that happens predominantly in the liver, but in most of the cells in the body as well. It helps you to detoxify and create healthy brain chemicals and healthy hormones and have heaps of energy. So Brazil nuts are great for your methylation. Now, also sunflower seeds are excellent for helping us to be able to produce more estrogen. And so are chickpeas and organic soy, but I wouldn't eat too much of that, honestly. And sprouts. I'm a passionate advocate of sprouting. And also all of the cruciferous vegetables, so cauliflower and broccoli are great as well. And also cabbage. I'm also a big fan of cabbage. I chop up cabbage and I add it to almost every meal, just a little bit of cabbage. And I eat sauerkraut all the time as well. So these are all foods that help to increase your estrogen production. Now, let's move on to the next slide. The next hormone that we want to discuss is progesterone. Now, progesterone production is supported when we increase, wait for it, our blood sugars, but just slightly. So progesterone is high from day 20 to when we bleed. So this is the time that we want to feast and to rest. It's the time that, you know, if you're going to get a cold, you will. It's the time that if you're going to have a breakdown, you will. This is the time we really need to nurture and nourish ourselves and not fast. Please put a sign in the chat that you've heard me here. We do not want to fast in the last 10 days of our cycle. So we feast at this time and we benefit from eating the following. So root veggies, fennel, pumpkin, and yams, of course, go with the root veggies. Beetroot, which is slightly higher GI, Brussels sprouts, broccoli again, cauliflower again. Papaya is a good one as well because it's moderately high GI, but not crazy. Same with bananas. This is the only time of the month I recommend you eat bananas. You can also eat oranges and lemons, all of the citrus, including grapefruit, and seeds of all sorts, as well as legumes. Now, you're also welcome to eat nuts, especially if they've been soaked or activated, and you can eat the grass-fed meat as well. This is, like I said, this is a time to eat well. However, it is still imperative that you avoid sugar, right? And sweet foods. If your goal is to lose weight and to detoxify, don't feast on junk food. What we eat immediately after our fast is important. We can talk about that later. But also in this period, it's often just before we bleed, the time we experience PMS, right? And it's oftentimes when the cravings are at their most powerful and we succumb to that block of Cadbury dairy milk, even though we know that we could do this differently, maybe with a handful of figs and a handful of nuts or something like that. So if you want to be on top of your cravings and feel like you're a master of this human vehicle that you have, then really try to avoid crap sugars during this period particularly. So what happens if you are menopausal or perimenopausal, if you have no cycle? Well, it actually makes it easy. So know that insulin, like I said before, insulin rises in insulin whenever you eat sugars and carbs, decreases estrogen. And in menopause, we actually want to make more estrogen and we want to support the liver to be able to get rid of the broken down estrogen. So the good news is that fasting also supports the metabolism, which is the breakdown and excretion of estrogen. So it avoids us it helps us if we avoid if we want to avoid the menopausal weight gain and associated health conditions often experienced in menopause if we can fast. So honestly, we could be discussing fasting for a month, 9 to 5. There's just so much to share. My greatest disappointment with this presentation is that there's so much that I haven't been able to share. That's what my notes look like. So I want to encourage you to begin by exploring intermittent fasting. Start to play with your eating window, making the time you fast longer and longer, and making your eating window smaller and smaller. Some people do 8 hours of eating in the day, and that works really, really well. And go until you can comfortably fast for 15 hours or more. So that's waking up in the morning. Hopefully you've done 12 hours. If you ate your dinner and finished at 6, then by 6 a.m. you've already done 12 hours. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. If you then ate your breakfast at 11, you are doing amazing. You're optimizing your intermittent fasting. But just start with increasing it, by an hour and stretching it out by an hour. And 2 days later, maybe stretching it out again by another hour and see how you go. Now, remember, I'm here available for you to support you in every way with every question that you have. And if there's something you learned that you'd like to share with me, then please let me know as well, because there's so much in this subject. So once you are feeling like you're getting the hang of that, or even straight away, I'd like you to purchase the book called Fast Like a Girl, because Dr. Mindy Peltz is the authority on this. I'm not going to pretend to know more than she does. She is amazing. And that audio book for $13, I think it is amazing. You'll learn so much in there. And if you already have the background from the modules that I've taught, then you're going to be able to take this book and make the most of it, because some of the science in it is a bit tricky. So if you understand all about insulin and blood sugars first, then it's great to be able to read her book, and then also the menopause reset as well. So I really love having the book, even though I first listened to it as an audio book, and I often put it on when I'm driving down to Byron to work, because it just reminds me of why I want to fast, and it gets me excited again. So when you're ready to do a longer fast, I'm definitely here to help you. Okay, so please reach out once you've read this amazing book, and then we can begin. And in the meantime, let's just start with some intermittent fasting. Really can do this. So for those of you who need to leave now, because we've already been talking for an hour, thank you so much for coming to the call. I hope that you've been inspired to just start something like this. And I was going to end the recording here, but I've got a sense that some of your questions might help others who want to watch. So I won't end the recording yet. And if you have any questions, you can ask me. And if you're too shy to ask me while we're being recorded, I will click record off soon, and I'll let you know when that happens. And if you'd like to speak, then you're welcome to as well. So I want to let you know, all of you have been working with me and studying and learning and growing and changing, and, you know, bringing in some new habits and doing some silly things like skipping and all of these funny things that we do to feel vital. I want to let you know you're all doing so well. Like I said, I'm always here to help you, no matter what the issue is, whether you're having a meltdown or whether you don't know how to cook asparagus. I'm here, okay? And I'd love to suggest too that you make the most of that Facebook group. It is full of good videos. And you can share your wins there too, if you want to post a little video, or if you want to put up some inspiring little quote or something like that, or if you have a question to ask that would benefit the whole of the group. And that way I can prepare a video just for you, and everyone else can benefit as well. And I'll post it there on Facebook. And the other thing I would really love to do, I would like to make 2024 the year where we really activate the community, because isolation hurts us and community supports us, it encourages us. And so if you would like to spend more time with people who are thinking the way you're thinking and changing their lives the way that you are, then please get on that messenger chat and send me a message. Send us all a message and let us know what you're doing, or what your challenges are, or what your little victories are. And then that way we can really build this community of support. So there you go. That's the end of the actual presentation about fasting. There's so much more to talk about. I'm going to just stop sharing so you can see my face again, and just ask who has some questions. I think probably we haven't yet discussed how to end a fast well. Would that be interesting to anybody? Yeah, okay, great. So when I'm fasting, I just never want to stop fasting. And I feel like my body becomes this just pristine vehicle. And I look around and I can't understand the eating behaviors of all of the people around me. But then I remember, you know, it wasn't so long ago that I craved that Kit Kat or really wanted to eat that fruit loaf. So I just have to practice like total non-judgment. And if I can have ready the food that I'll need to break the fast before I start fasting, that's good. So I love to grate a beetroot on any food that I eat. I like to chop up some cabbage really fine and add that to any food that I eat first. I find that an avocado is a nice way to break a fast. And you could drizzle flax oil or olive oil on the avocado, and maybe some dukkha or some nuts and seeds that you've toasted up. And that is just a delicious way to end your fast, and you'll be like, oh, this is the most delicious thing I've ever eaten. So I would maybe for the next meal have some salad. I would be taking some probiotics, lots of probiotics over the next period. The favorite thing that I do very first after I finish a fast is I drink about half a litre or half a bottle of a sear, because my digestive system is all clean and it just zips in, and it makes me feel great. Then I know that I've really done everything I could possibly do to get well. And then I would probably have a small amount of grass-fed beef. I would up my organ meats. So if I said before that I take little capsules that contain organic beef liver, that's definitely good. It's going to help provide the nutrient that your body needs to continue cleaning out, because it will continue to clean out. And from then on, just lots of veggies, lots of sauerkraut. And I bought 3 different types of sauerkraut this time, 3 different foods in. Actually, one's kimchi, and the other ones I've got carrots and beets and pepperberry and things like that in, as well as the cabbage. So heaps of that. I tend to stay off eggs for a little while because eggs can be inflammatory. However, I have the happiest chickens in the world, and I really believe that the eggs that they make for me, and I do eat eggs. So any other questions or suggestions? I know, Julia, you've done a lot of fasting. How do you like to break your fasts?
I like some miso soup, and I know this weather it's really hot, so I'll go with the fats and all of that. But also I like broth, so I'll have broth ready all the time. But I'm with you, avocado and seeds and things. That's just the most delicious way to do it. Yeah, and I'm the same. For a few days there, I feel really, really aware of the vessel. And wanting to just do the best. I think Maggie had a question. Did you have a question?
I did.
If I have a question, also,
Hello,
I'm sure you have heaps of experience with fasting. How do you like to break a fast?
Well, interesting, I was going to say this. I used to work as a naturopath at a fasting center many years ago, called Hopewood. Some people might remember it if they're like older than me. And we had a lot of people who were very ill who would come and do water fasts for like 20-day water fasts and things like that. They were heavily monitored by nursing staff, and it was an amazing place, right? But when we would break the fast, it was very, very particular. So they would have portioned soup, because it was about the portions as well. Because of course you feel really hungry once you break. I love that when you said the vessel, because I remember I do feel like that too. There's this sort of clean vessel. But we would be very careful, like lots of grated vegetables, like grated beetroot, carrot, little bit of lettuce, so it was portioned, and then they'd have a little bit of that, sort of 3 times in the day. They did also, I think, because we did a lot of juice fasting for people, so they did small amounts of juices with water topped up. So you didn't have a full juice or anything like that. It was just a little tiny bit of water, maybe 20%. And it would all be, I remember it would all be in the person's notes.
Yeah, a little bit of juice.
Sorry. Say that again.
Yeah, a little bit of juice
and then
lots
and lots of water.
Yeah.
And that would be like, for people coming off, the notes in the practitioner notes would be like 5%. And that meant 5% juice, and then the 95% water, and then they'd move up 10% juice, and because it was just too much otherwise on the body. But yeah, and it was all like, celery and beetroot and carrot and lots of ginger and things like that to stimulate metabolism. And I guess that's one of my questions. Can I ask a question, Alice, to you? One of the things I've always had, because I'm menopausal, I still get hot flushes now, but occasionally, not as bad as I used to, but I get them when I'm stressed or run down. But I wonder, there's this kind of used to be this kind of scientific or narrative battle about fat cells and fasting, and the fact we would have women come back and do fasting at Hopewood, and they would come to lose weight. So they would reset by doing a fast. And every time they came back, every year, they would be heavier.
Really?
And they'd be fatter because they would rebound in the, they didn't, it's this thing, I'll go and do a fast and cleanse, and then I can go back to the way I was eating before almost, right? And so I just wonder if you could speak a little bit about that with your experience with clients and how you work with that when you're trying to get them to fast responsibly, I suppose.
Thanks so much for asking your question. I have lots of questions to ask you too. I didn't realize that was your area of expertise. So I did know that you were a naturopath. And I didn't expect to see you on the call today. So that's great. Thanks.
Me either. I know.
So
I just walked in
and went, oh, this is fascinating.
I went, oh my gosh, what's this? Yeah.
you're so welcome. Absolutely. And so I think that education is the most important thing around fasting. Just like we need to educate ourselves about our cycles and how to nourish ourselves so that we can produce those hormones. I think educating people so that they know what to do later is great, because part of the concept here is that fasting becomes a lifestyle. It's not just a one-off thing that we do, because remember the yo-yo dieting that women used to do, or some women still do, God bless them, where they just don't eat, and then they get to the point where, because they're not nourishing their bodies and they don't understand the timing of it, they get to the point where they're feeling kind of crazy and they just bloody have to have that muffin. And so then they break the fast really badly and they just set themselves up like this. And it changes that reset, that set point, that metabolic set point. So every time we do fast badly and then start back on food in an outrageous and what I perceive to be an unhealthy way, we change that set point. And so the body decides to store extra fat just in case we're ever going to starve ourselves again. Maybe you can speak about that set point. Anything else you know about that?
I do. That's really rung a bell for me. That's really rung a bell. And that the fat cells get incredibly hungry. Like they get activated in a way. I mean, that's the only way I can think of it. They get really hungry, so that we have, and you probably know this more than me, honest, but it's like you get so many fat cells, and then if you keep doing this back and forth thing, the number of fat cells grows, so you get more number of fat cells.
The size of the fat cells as well.
And that's from eating the carbs. That's from going back to that carb-rich diet that and 20 years ago, that was popular. It was not, I don't think it was known that we needed to have such a huge fat intake. They would still stay away from all the good fats, and the good fats are so required when we break a fast. And if you're not feeding your body the good fats, then you go back onto that carb diet that actually made you go to where you were, you're just going to go there further.
Yeah, that's that point. I agree. It's like it's the survival, isn't it? It's just that survival mechanism in your own body changing that set point, and so then the set point gets to that other level. And it's interesting you say that, because I remember I was teaching, and then a lot of the information we had, that was a long time ago now, 20 plus years ago, was not about exactly. It's like Pritikin diet stuff. It's still no fat or low fat, so only the good fats, but not about really that being your kind of primary, like lots of vegetables and fats and meats, and the whole thing about lean meats versus fat meats, and I still think to a degree, I know this for myself as a menopausal woman, like I used to exercise and eat well, and that was fine. Now I am intermittent fasting. I have to be more mindful, because it feels like easier for me to put on weight, to hold weight feels easier for me, right?
Holding weight and also holding fluid as well. There's two things I'd like to just mention about what you've talked about, and that is that we have a culture of detoxifying. I've come from Byron Bay, so I know all about it, right? People eat shit, they drink, they take drugs, and then they do a detox. And then they go back and they do it all again. And they're like, it's all right, because I'm going to do my yearly detox. And that's really not ideal. It's good that they're detoxing for sure. But if we can live and eat in a way where our bodies are being supported to detoxify all the time, that's ideal, don't you think? The other thing,
absolutely.
Yeah, the other thing is stress. And so the adrenal system, I work with lots and lots, thousands of women with adrenal issues. And if we can reset the adrenal system and then start fasting, that's much, much better. Because sure, it is a useless, it is a helpful stress, a good stress, but whatever it is that's driving, whatever the biggest thing is at least, that's driving stress in your life, that needs to be attended to. Because if you're stressed, you're turning even the fat that you eat into sugar. You turn everything into sugar.
Yeah, that's so good.
And I think, Alice, that's something that for me was really important in the last fast that I did, that I actually was so delighted by fasting and then increasing my redox, my ASEA intake, because I could feel my body just repairing itself. You know what's happening in that state. And if you give it that extra boost, it's quite a wonderful thing to do too while I'm fasting. And my mum was doing that when she got completely out of pain as well.
Yeah, great. And Julia, thank you so much for talking about broth, because broth's one of my favorite foods. It's one of my favorite foods, whether I'm coming out of a fast or not, because it's supplying me with so many good fats and minerals, and it's so easy. You just boil up some veggies and then just stir the broth in. It's just, in the old days, can you remember the smell of making bone broth? It would fill the house, right? And I used to see clients at my house, so I had to be very careful about when I made my bone broth. But these days, you can just get little jars of bone broth. I prefer them to the powder, and just add a couple of teaspoons into, a cup of hot water and drink it down. Or you can add some veggies first, and you could grate some ginger in or anything you like. And thanks also for talking about ginger, because ginger is one of my favorite foods and something that I wish everyone would have every day, along with their fermented foods and protein. And 80% veggies is my goal, and throw in any fruit that you like, but 80% veggies, stick with that. There's so much life force and vitality in plants, and that's what we're supposed to eat. Anything that comes in a packet is not really food. It's not really healthful. So there you go. Would anyone else like to comment or anything before we end up our call today? Any questions?
I was just about to type. I can't turn on my camera today. I haven't been able to do it. I don't know why, but anyway. But what you were just speaking of before, just the fact that I still feel like that I'm really healing my adrenal system is a key point for me to be super aware of, because I do think that my system still goes into a bit of concern when I fast.
Yeah. I think that concern is a fairly natural feeling. Sometimes you'll have moments like you might get a little dizzy or headachy or weak. And there are opportunities to make sure that you are resting enough. Even now, I was preparing this class and doing 100 other things. I came home to a moldy house. I just got back at midnight 2 nights ago from a month away.
Yeah.
And I feel like the biggest mistake I've made with this fast is not resting enough. Yeah. And so I'm supposed to be role modeling. So at my next fast, or maybe for the next 12 hours, I am determined to sit still or lie down and just have a good rest. And Emily, maybe it might be helpful for you to write a list of the things in your life that are the most stressful. Because you've done a great big cleanup of your body. You did the GAPS diet. You've been working with me, you've done lots and lots of different things, and you have access to all sorts of healing modalities, and you're an expert yourself. But sometimes our own stuff is like the stuff that we can't look at. It's like it's invisible for us. So maybe write down the things that are triggers for you to get stressful, and the things that you just have to do, or you feel like you have to do in order to survive. And maybe some clearing of beliefs around where you're at as well, so that you don't stay stuck just because of an unconscious belief. More than that, let's just stay in touch and see what works for you. And if anyone else has any suggestions, let's maybe, if you could do the adrenal reset, which is the YouTube video, where you could do that every day if you like, where you just lie down and you can even get someone to help you by placing their hand on this very important sedation point here to support your nervous system to drop down. Or maybe commit to doing a weekly swap with a craniosacral practitioner. So you're adding more things on the list that are unstressing, and you're recognizing and maybe removing some of the things in your life that are stressing.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been doing so much more resting. I feel like a completely different person. But yeah, you know, I
Good.
have once again just changed my workspace for the 6th time in 2 years. And I guess that
stresses.
kind of is,
Big stresses.
yeah,
Moving is a big thing, especially when you're moving a bunch of children and your main focus is to make sure that they feel safe and calm. Big stresses.
yeah,
And your
yeah,
home space as well. So really important things.
yeah,
Remember to get your early morning walk. I know you love the
yeah,
sunrise. It's easy for you.
yeah.
Just be
And
with
then I don't eat beside a certain point, and I go to bed early. I mean, I've you know, lots of things have changed. It's wonderful.
remember it takes
Thanks for today.
Thank you. Remember, it takes time to get
Yeah.
well. You know, we all just like, okay, well, this is a 15-week modules. Then in 15 weeks, everything should be resolved. But you know what? Your body will be returned to the healing lane. And if I can support you to stay in that lane, then over time, things get better and better and better, especially with the gut microbiome.
Yeah,
Yeah. And our
absolutely.
well. So be gentle on yourself, give yourself a cuddle and a pat, and tell yourself that you're doing really, really well. I've been watching you do really, really well.
Thanks.
All right. Hey, Lisa Bartels, are you on the call? Are you really there behind that photo? Hey,
I don't.
so good to see
Yes,
you.
yeah, lots of information there. I've had it muted and me out because I've had people coming in and out just in the last little bit. Something that so I have listened to most of it, but sometimes when I'm up at Bargara, there's a little health shop up there, Alice, that advertises like 3-day juice fasting, and you know, they've often got that stand outside, and in the past I've thought, oh, that'd be really good to do. There we go. Would you recommend something like that, or are you more thinking you're water fasting and
I love your question.
yeah.
I love your question. So I do juice as a part of my life. But what I do is I go out in the morning and I pick stuff from the garden, spinach, kale, parsley, what else I've got? Carrots out there, anything I can find that I could juice. And I put it in my blender, not my juicer. And I put water in there and I blend it, not for so long that it destroys the enzymes, but enough to break it down. And then I drink the water off that. And then I put more water in and I do it again and I pop that in the fridge and then I'll drink that at lunchtime. So sometimes I'll put like half an apple in or dragon fruit or something to give a little bit of sweetness so that it's more palatable. But I think that someone who's eating crap food all the time is definitely going to benefit from a juice fast.
Minute.
Yeah. However, it does raise our sugar levels. And, you know, you could juice vegetables and be doing really, really well, or you could juice fruit and just be getting the juice, which is pure sugar, without the fiber. And that is a big problem because fiber is what stops the sugar from crossing over into the blood so swiftly. So juices are high GI because when you have them, all of that sugar, just like if you have a Mars bar, suddenly in your blood. And even though it's come from food sources and contains some phytoestrogens and all sorts of goodies and micronutrients, then it's still a lot. So it's a lot of sugar. So I think just to rest the digestive system and have juice would help for sure. No harm in trying, but I think it would be better to juice vegetables or to do a water fast. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. That's great.
Nice to see you on here. I love you.
I love you too.
Hey, Tracy,
Yeah.
I'm watching you walk around town. Any questions? You're at the juice shop.
Yeah,
No,
can you hear me? No, I'm at Food Works. I've got to go. I'm on my way home because I've got a client soon. I have a question, which is probably for another time, but it's about, I have a friend who's a diabetic, and I just wanted to know about her being able to fast, that she is a diabetic. Is that not a good thing, or?
a type 1 diabetic or a type 2 diabetic?
Oh, I'm not sure. I know that she's very overweight. She's got this bag. She has to inject herself every day, and she's got this.
She sounds
I
really
think
like a
it's
type 2, like a type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that it would be really good to really investigate that further. I've never helped somebody with fasting specifically when they're diabetic. However, I think that if she can continue to manage her blood sugars and attend to providing herself the insulin that she needs as she needs it based on those measurements, no problem at all. That's my feeling. What do you think? Are you still there, Julia? Or have you left the call? Let's have a,
So,
yeah. What do you think about
I'm
this?
gonna send her. I'll send her the video,
Yeah,
and
sure.
then see if maybe she wants to join the group, and then because she's actually studying to be a naturopath, and she's got a sugar addiction, and she's trying to get over it. And
Yeah.
she's very inspired and follows me, and she's starting to swap out snacks with things like cucumber and celery and carrots. And she's noticed that her kids are no longer eating their cheese rings; they're coming to steal mummy's cucumber. So good things are starting to happen.
So you two, what do you think about this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's going to stop the cravings. She's probably got a lot of cravings. It like all the things in that first slide that Alice showed, that's all going to be so helpful. So helpful.
Yeah.
And probably education, like Dr. Mindy Pell's book would be Fast Like a Girl would be really helpful, I'd say.
Yeah, I've actually sent her, Dr. Mindy, some of her interviews regarding the problems that she has, so that she can listen to them. But I think because she's studying and she's got 4 kids, she finds it hard to find the time to be able to focus, you know, and because she's living that kind of life, it's real easy for her to put something in her mouth that she shouldn't. Maybe, I don't know. I mean,
I think if she gets educated though, and she realizes, okay, just start intermittent fasting, just the slightly longer period of fasting, it's going to really help. Just slightly longer, and then slightly again.
I'm so inspired by how hard she's working at making herself better. She's just amazing. So I'll send her the copy of this video. And she's such a beautiful woman. I'd love to have her as part of the team.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. And how about you? We've got a naturopath on board. I would say, yeah, fast but carefully and with advice from a naturopath or someone who has.
I'd be if she's reliant on insulin, if she's injecting insulin even once a day, multiple times a day, then that's concerning. That's such a flag around, because then if she just normally, you know, checks her blood sugar and then she's injecting according to that, and then she might fast. I just think it's tricky. I definitely agree with what Julia's saying, that, you know, you would start with a sort of a longer stretch between her next insulin shot or what she's eating, so she can then look at her blood sugar levels and see what's going on with them and how her body is responding to that. But, you know, how well is her pancreas producing the insulin that she's getting? Is she getting enough from her pancreas, or is she going to become completely reliant on external insulin? Because then that changes the game as well. I think it's a tricky one. And look, and that said, you know, I mean, we've probably all watched videos and documentaries with people who, like, when all of a sudden went on, say, Dr. Dean Ornish's diet in the States, and, you know, had cardiac problems and diabetes, and they're just eating fully vegetables, not fasting yet, but fully and they reverse the diabetes because their pancreas is still functional enough that it can pick it up. So that's when you think, okay, do what you can there and then reset more once you know where your insulin is. But I think I'd be as a practitioner, and I'm not practicing as a naturopath anymore, but I would be cautious, pretty cautious, because you don't want to send someone into a state, right? What do you think, Alice?
Definitely not. No. So I just think she's definitely going to need a practitioner to help her, and to learn everything she possibly can. And I thoroughly recommend Mindy Pelts. You can also get a monitor that goes under your skin, which is fascinating because you'll notice that at different times of your cycle, you eat the same food but have a different insulin response. And different people have a different insulin response to the same foods. So I would love to do that experiment with myself, and for 6 months or so, just monitor what's actually happening in my body when I eat these certain foods. So there you go. Thank you so much for everybody's time and for all of the energy that you've brought to this today. There were another 4 people who weren't able to get on the call today, and a couple who wanted me to send it to them. So that's great. Thank you for your interest. If you would like to hear more masterclasses, like group calls like this, let me know. And if you have a particular subject that you'd like to learn more about, please ask me and I'll be able to provide you whatever it is that you need. So goodbye.
Thank you, Alice.
Amazing.
Thank you so
Great
much.
day.
Great.
I'll see you tomorrow morning when I'm finished.
Yes.
All right.
Bye.